Continuing the look at the best of the best in all of St. Louis sports history, counting up from 0 to 99. All the jersey numbers are going to be covered here over the next several weeks. And we wrap up the 20s today with Randy Karraker and Bernie Miklasz. I'm Joe Roderick here on STL Sports Central, where all content is brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Guys, we end the 20s with two guys that are Hall of Famers for the St. Louis Cardinals, not MLB Hall of Famers. You have Vince Coleman, you have Chris Carpenter. Guys, I don't know where to start with these two.
Bernie, it's really pretty amazing. The Cardinals were not good in 84. Vince Coleman comes up in 85. He is the linchpin to them becoming good. The Cardinals are not good in 2003. Chris Carpenter arrives. They signed him. He was injured, but really arrives as a starter in 04. They went from being not good in 03 to good in 04. I think we can start with the fact that both of these number 29s were linchpins for the Cardinals moving into a new era.
I thought I was thrilled, like most people were, watching Vince Coleman. What an exciting player! What an electric player! And yeah, his influence in the mid '80s on the Cardinals was profound. You know, part of that '85 and '87 team. But Chris Carpenter kind of stands alone for me, even though, again, it's always tough to make these decisions. I mean, Chris Carpenter, first of all, the Cardinals had not had what you would call an ace for a long time, and he became an ace. And he won the Cy Young Award in 2005. He finished second in the voting in 2009. He was third in 2006. He's got the most wins above replacement of any starting pitcher that was acquired by Walt Jocketty or anyone since Jocketty. The other thing is he was a three-time All-Star. He pitched the Cardinals to World Series titles in 2006 and 2011. He's got the most postseason wins in franchise history. And in the 2006 and 2011 postseasons combined, when they won the World Series, 7-1 record and a 3.04 ERA in 11 starts. Vince Coleman was great, but I don't think he can top that resume.
It's a spectacular resume, and one of the things that hurts Vince is the tarp. If Vince Coleman doesn't get hurt in 1985, the Cardinals probably win the World Series. I think it's safe to say. They didn't hit and they didn't score during that World Series, and he was, I used the word linchpin before, he was the linchpin to that offense. And obviously other injuries precluded them from being able to win in 1987. But you talk about a game changer, 100 stolen bases in each of his first 3 seasons in Major League Baseball. And we talked when we talked about 24 how Whitey Herzog changed the game. Well, Vince Coleman changed the game too. Even as much as Rickey Henderson was a stolen base fiend, he didn't do early in his career what Vince Coleman did. And I do believe that even though the Cardinals had won in 82, Vince changed the fortunes of the franchise. And I don't think they win those 2 pennants in 85 and 87 without Vince Coleman. The raw numbers obviously fall on the side of Chris Carpenter, those numbers that you just gave. But I always go back to talking to other managers and how Vince Coleman affected the way other teams played because he was so intimidating when he was on the base pass. And right. The Cardinals, for a running team, led the league in runs scored in 1985, even though they didn't hit any home runs.
And the other thing about Carpenter is the leader that he was. Mm-hmm. He was the rare starting pitcher where even the position players watched him and listened to him. And if he had something to say, they took it to heart. He also was such a tremendous leader for young Cardinals pitchers. Ask Adam Wainwright about that. Mm-hmm. You know, Carpenter passed the torch to Waino, who became, I think, the second greatest starting pitcher in the history of the franchise. But that Waino, in part, became Waino because Chris Carpenter poured so much into him to get him ready to take over as the ace of the Cardinals franchise. So, I was there for all of those great Carpenter accomplishments. It's just hard for me to, if he hadn't won like a Cy Young and 2 World Series and set a record for postseason victories, I'd be happy to say, yeah, Vince Coleman, but I just can't do it in this case. It's no offense.
Here's one other thing here, and we don't have a ton of time left, but Vince Coleman replaced Lonnie Smith. Lonnie Smith did what Vince Coleman did, not to the level that Vince did. But at the end of the day, could those teams in the 80s have won without Vince Coleman, if Lonnie Smith had still been the guy, yes. Could the Cardinals in the 2000s have won without Chris Carpenter? I don't think so. I think that's a differentiating factor, is that I think the most valuable thing in baseball is having a stud number one. How often do I say, hey, I wish the guy was like, I say it about Sonny Gray. I wish he was like Chris Carpenter. There aren't other guys like Chris Carpenter, and he's one of my favorite all-time players.
They don't make many like they did Chris Carpenter back in the day. It's a dying breed in baseball, but this is where we hand things off to you right now. The battle between two red jackets. It's Vince Coleman. It's Chris Carpenter. The battle for number 29. Leave your comments. And also, hey, let us know if there's any other numbers that you disagree with as we wrap up the 20s. And next week, get into the 30s and a few more good debates there in our look at the best of the best all summer long. He's Randy Karraker. He's Bernie Miklasz. This is STL Sports Central.